Good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday. It's November 28th. This is the Water and Sewer Committee. Present today are Councilman Clunt and Councilman Schuyler, Water Superintendent Mark Liebrecht, Public Works Director Troy Kruger, City Attorney Paul Jensen, and this is our Finance Officer Chandra Phillips. We will be going over budgets and looking at kind of what your itinerary you put in front of us. Go ahead, Troy or Mark.
Not a whole lot to talk about in this committee. A couple of subjects, but budget-wise, Mark, it's at the end of the year. We're doing POs today. The end of the week will be the guys' basically the last time to purchase anything that they need going through for the rest of the year, except necessities. So we'll run through our POs today, and Mark's getting down there in water. He's got a couple payrolls and some utilities to come out of there, and he's got some POs. So that's going to be pretty tight. Sewer's got quite a bit of money left in it, but some of that's outlay money. We have about roughly $30,000 in pay requests still out there for the highway project. So we'll probably do curb stop and valve box inspections this week. They still have to install a manhole for us. That's all included in what I had Jacob estimated out what we were going to owe, including his services for the rest of the year. So both departments are sitting pretty good. Water revenues are on the rise as we put in more of these radios. We have about 455 or 460 installed to date. So we'll be hitting that hard here at the end of the year. I'd like to get up close 800 or 900 by the end of December. So that's kind of that. Last committee meeting, we talked about the sewer reline over here in the alleyway between 3rd and 4th, between Lamro and Taft, and everyone asks what we're doing. So this is a piece of it. We cut the top out. That's the finished product. They tie it in at the manholes. But that's the thickness of it, and it turned out really, really nice. It's an upgrade to what we normally do. It's a little bit thicker, a little more. It can withstand a little more pressure, pounds of weight on it, but it's pretty good material.
Seems like it.
That was the company out of Iowa from Pierce came down, no?
Company out of Colorado.
Colorado.
Yep.
But that was the one with the sewer main that was bad that you called them on, right?
It's when it collapsed, and then we actually had to go in and make a repair in there so they could get the reliner in, because it was starting to collapse again in another spot, and it was too. Yeah, you're not going to break that with your hands.
Come on, Chandra, bust it.
It was never in the sewer. If it was in a perfect circle, you wouldn't even be able to begin to bend it.
No, I can see that.
But, so it's a nice option to have that stuff. We have a couple more sewers in town where I'd like to use that product. Just,
Conversation.
it's about,
Time, please.
our normal relines have been running us about $39 a foot. That ran us about $95 a foot. So the difference is the other one that is put in is cured with steam and pressure. This one, they blow it up with air, and it's actually a two-part. It's kind of like, it's real similar to fiberglass, the way that they cure it. It's got a polymerized product in the middle, but it's got two outer coatings, and then they use UV light to cure it. And so they run a camera through that's about
Oh, it's long?
About 4 foot long.
About 8 foot.
And it's got different sets of UV lights on it as it goes down, so the intensity gets more, and then they make sure that they get a good cure on it. But if you just take that stuff out and set it in the sunlight, within 20 minutes, it'll start getting hard, just on a day like today. So it's pretty cool stuff. The nice thing about it is it's continuous, and it's got almost no friction loss on the bottom, so it'll be really good for sand and gravel and things like that get into our manholes. It'll just keep right on moving right through, so good product.
How is the repair going?
It's done.
It's done?
Yeah.
Completely, okay.
Yeah, they had some trouble with their, because it was an old sewer. It was old, about 4 foot sections of concrete pipe, so every 4 feet you have a bell joint, and some of those were offset. And in order to get the liner in there and get it blown up into the, nice 8-inch shape, they have to be able to get through with their tool. And then they had quite a few protruding taps that were into our sewer, so PVC pipe and things like that people just,
Sure. Back
in the day before we monitored it, they just stuck the pipe in there and covered it back up. So they had to go through and cut all those out, but they did have some, they spent almost a full day cutting and grinding on some of those imperfections of the inside of that sewer to get the shape that they needed to get the sewer pulled in. They pulled it in with this particular product. But, yeah, it was about a 2-day process. And one thing that slowed them up is we did have about 15 foot of pipe that had started to collapse, and so they couldn't do anything with it. So we went in and replaced it with PVC pipe before they put the liner in. So
Was that in the street or was that?
it's in the alleyway.
Alleyway, okay.
So, but we went manhole to manhole, so we didn't have to tear up any manholes. We didn't have to tear up any streets or alleyway aprons or anything. So
Good.
about half the price of what it would have cost us to do it if we would have done it with, full replacement. So, Mark still has an opening. We're still applying for positions in his department, so hopefully, I do have an application on my desk. Just came in the other day. So we're hoping to fill that position by the end of the year. And then, let's talk Vector.
I'll give you guys the sheet of kind of the pros and cons of each truck. There's the current truck, the Impact, which is the same size as the one that we have, and then the 2100. For sure, the 2100, 80 gallons per minute. For our chain cutter, just showed Justin, we've had it for like 12 years. We don't have enough pressure to use it. We need a 50 pounds minimum. And none of the first 2 trucks will have that. What's happening is we're sending that in there, putting it up against the roots, and it stops the chain cutter, because we don't have enough volume to turn that. So we gotta pull it back ways and go in again. But with this bigger, with the 2100, we would have plenty of gallons per minute to turn that thing and let it do its job, what it should. Water capacity, the 2100 has more in the three-body, the hose size, which is going to give us more of the gallons per minute. Hose length, vacuum size, the boom, it's an extra 5 foot longer. We should be able to get our whole wet well down there at the lift station. Right now, when we built this screen room, is where we used to park with our
This is the
vacuum.
tool that we currently
And we'll
have,
swing
that our truck doesn't have
that,
enough
boom over,
gallons per
and
minute
we
to
can
work
get
it.
in there and get
So we've had
almost
a
all
couple
down
years
the
since
wet
we
well.
use it.
But now with that
Danny
screen
ordered it,
room
if I'm checking in
we gotta pull
to
up
see
on the
what you had to
concrete.
have for a truck to do it.
And we're not able to get the east side of that wet well. We need
We've used it in cases where the roots have been really light,
Oh, what?
and it works.
And then the next one, the new ones have, it's called a jackhammering action. When you're running the jetter, it'll actually sit there and pound against the roots. It's designed to do that, or with any plugs or whatever. Okay. And I said the chase cutter is 50 gallons a minute. There's a new nozzle out there I ordered. I talked to you guys last week about that. It was going to be 4,000. This one's coming in at a little over 2,000. And what we've seen of it, it looks like it's really going to help us. I don't know if it'll work with our current truck. I think it will. And then the financing is the next stapled sheets.
So you had prices, basically you have prices on a truck. The replacement prices to fix our truck were gonna exceed, they were gonna exceed about $200,000 for sure. Some of those parts on that truck, Ben's can't find the parts for them right now, so they're looking for, they're calling different suppliers to see if they have something on stock, but they don't make the parts anymore for that truck, for some of the valving and things on it. The next price that he gave you would be the replacement of our truck and a new one, that's the Impact. And then you can buy it outright, you can do the 5-year, you can do the 7-year. And then there's the upgrade from what we have, which would be the 2100S. And that's the one that's $489. That's quite, the one that replaces ours is $356,000. The upgrade to what we have now, which would be 80 gallon per minute, 2,500 PSI, 1,500 gallons of water, longer boom, longer hoses. It would have almost 600-foot reel of hose on it, and the hose size would increase from 1 inch. It would be a 1-inch hose on there. So it gives you a few more options for tools. I spent about a day last week researching and trying to see what it would cost us to replace our truck with a used truck. There are not very many Vactor trucks for sale out there. And everything I found was basically the 2100S in a dual, would be a tandem axle truck. We actually measured our bus barn, and the truck if we go to a tandem axle, we store it down at the bus barn, it won't fit in there, it's too long. So it's kind of pointless to have the tandem axle, but a good used 2100S, and like I said, I could find very few single axles. Most of them were tandem axles, and they, for the most part, had a lot of hours on them. I did find one company that refurbishes trucks, but they go through the major components of the Vactor system, but the truck itself they don't do anything to the truck, and it's still going to be about $250,000 to $300,000 for that truck refurbished. So that truck had, I mean, these trucks are coming off of like Hydro Cleans and the guys that did our, so I think, Ben told us that he thought our truck would be worth around $40,000, $50,000. I don't think that's accurate. I think our truck would be worth a little more because I can't find one online. I mean, they're just not out there. So I'm thinking maybe we might be able to get like 50 or 60 for ours. Maybe, I could not find, going through the internet, I looked on Truck Trader, I looked on Municipid, I looked everywhere. I could not find a single Vactor truck that was the same size as ours. They're just not out there. And
So you're thinking put it on Municipid would, in your opinion, bring the best return, or what are you thinking?
I would start by putting it on the we're a part of that, what is that? South Dakota, put it on some of our local stuff. And then there's, like, you can advertise on the rural water page.
Okay.
I think it would go locally to a town in South Dakota, to be honest. I just, I know Gregory picked one up here a couple years ago, but it's, for what a new one cost and what they could get out of, what they could do with that truck, it would be a bargain at, $60,000. If a new one's costing you $350, I mean, for a small town that gets it out, once or twice a year.
So those are places where you would establish a price to list it for sale. What are you thinking, up around 60
I would definitely start at that. I mean,
or higher?
Or higher.
Okay. That's what I think these guys need to hear is kind of what are we thinking the return would be.
So the other place we could get a little help to pay for it would be, we have about $30,000, like I mentioned, we have about $30,000 in remaining unpaid pay requests that will come off the highway project. But after last week's payment of the Hall Road and the colored concrete for the highway project, there's $112,752 left of unappropriated.
No, that's how much is left in payments to be made for everything, 112.
Oh, that's your total payments.
Yep, you still have 112 payments, 112,000 payments to be made.
So we still have about $100,000 then left of,
It's lower down than that email, how much is left in each one?
oh, $73,090.06.
Minus the relining.
Sorry, just a second, I'll find it on my end. You have over, if I remember correctly, you have over 200,000 in outlay in unappropriated cash. However, that's not gonna be going back into your cash. It has to stay in outlay until the state closes out the project. So once the state closes out the project, then anything that's remaining in your outlay funds that was put aside for this is go back into unappropriated cash.
Is the
It
state
is at
gonna
the
close
end
that
of
out this
that
year or
email,
next year?
how much there is.
It'll be,
They're trying to close out this year. I don't think they're gonna get it done.
I don't think they are either.
This truck wouldn't be here till 2025 anyways. If you order a new one.
If we order a new one, will that
Huh?
price be the same, or is that gonna be?
no. Based on that quote, it's gonna be whatever their
Whatever
current,
they're going at that time?
right? Right,
That's what I think.
yeah.
If we would go with the bigger truck, Mark, are we going to be jetting out more sewer lines? I mean, being proactive, I guess, is what I'm asking. Certain amount of blocks a year or whatever.
How roughly, how much is that sewer that just got done? What's that gonna cost?
40.
40?
And that was how
His,
long?
his budget will pay for that this year. That won't come out of the outlay money. That his 2023 budget can support that 40,000. He's still,
How many feet did you get out of their truck?
pardon me?
How many feet? 400, 500 feet?
396 feet. They gave us a quote of 37,500, and I think it's gonna come in a little higher due to the amount of, the time that they spent. They spent almost 9 hours grinding on some imperfections in there to get them out of that sewer line, so it might be a little more than that, but he's got,
There was more taps to be reinstated to the deal than what we anticipated.
Some dry ones?
Dead ones there?
We don't know which ones were the average ones.
Yeah.
Your water expense budget, just so you know, the supplemental budget that council just approved, it's not through this, I mean, it's still in the 20 days, but there'll be an additional $101,188 put back into water for expenses, so you'll have the 101 plus your 34,000, just so you are aware. It won't show up till I close out November.
December 15th, it'll show.
My goal is to be done well before then. It's end of year, we try to push it, so that we can know where everyone stands.
My timeline, December 15th. You beat it, I'm good with it.
Don't get used to it.
I will.
On the 21I or whatever on the back page of these quotes, what's the difference between option A and option B?
The term, the top term there is a 5-year
5 or
lease.
7.
The bottom is a 7-year, which changes that payment.
But the equipment cost, just the.
Yeah, I did see
the
that
flat
too. That's a good
equipment
point.
cost is different.
Hmm.
Whether if we bought it outright, the cost is different. That's what I couldn't figure out what.
One thing I did ask him yesterday, I had him
See
on the
that,
phone,
Mark?
I asked him about the interest rates. And they don't guarantee the interest rate till 40, so the interest rate that you're seeing on these sheets could go up, could go down. They don't guarantee the interest rate until 45 days before delivery, so,
Are they guaranteeing the base price?
yes.
So that's not subject to change outside
No.
of 45 days?
What they
okay.
quote you, if you sign on that 30-day quote, they'll lock in the price, but they will not lock in the interest rate.
Interest rate, gotcha.
So on page 2, option A, the price is $491,000. Same piece of equipment, option B is $488,000.
Yeah.
Why the difference?
I don't have the sheet in front of me. Mark got it all in his folder.
Interesting.
Flip over to the next page.
You'd have to call him and ask
Right
him
there.
that.
Yeah, that seems like a typo, because on the first page, they're the exact same.
I guess if we were gonna buy it, I'd pick option B.
The biggest.
I'm
thing
just
for me
wondering
would
if
be
interest rates went up while he was typing this and they had to
Maybe.
adjust.
So my question is, if we sign this now, because we did this, something similar with this on the 2019 dump truck, we paid 2 payments before we ever received that dump truck. So if we're signing for this now, we don't have to pay our first payment till it's received?
We don't make a single payment until we receive the truck. We take possession of it, we make our first payment.
That's state statute. That other deal was wrong. I know.
Contract is-
That other deal was wrong. We shouldn't have paid till we had it.
Well, I think we can take it to full council.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, send it to council.
Which one?
Option B, extend it out.
I did have, I can't remember if it was Justin, if you asked me this, or another council member did ask me this. And they were curious if it would be, so I'm gonna just go over the question so we cover it, but they were curious if it would be beneficial to us to reach out to some other communities and see if they wanted to chip in on the truck and do like a cost share on it. I don't know. I mean, Gregory bought one. I know we do go over to Cologne. We go to Bone Steel, probably the 2 places that we go.
Both Steel we've been to only once, Cologne we've been to several times.
Do we
We charge them, we bill them.
we bill at the resolution rate?
From the time they leave winter till the time they get back.
Yep.
I'd rather do it that way, and we own it, if we don't have any partners on it.
I think your insurance would prefer it that way too.
I don't think they would. They'll let us take all the risk. They're not gonna put in money, I don't believe.
If they
In
can
kind of a
avoid it.
cooperative type deal.
When
You end up
when you get
having-
into something like that, I think the biggest thing that you run into would be the same day we get a call, is the same day they're gonna call. And who you gonna go to? Who you gonna go to? That's,
And that's always the problem when you have shared equipment. The other part of the problem, and just from a minor technical standpoint, but if you're going to literally have dual ownership, not only do you have to figure out how to do the control thing and prioritize and things like that, but frankly, there might even be a requirement, and I know this sounds silly, but you may end up having to make like a public corporation entity that actually owns it because of the shared nature of that. I think it's a nightmare.
Every time it needs something, then you split the bill for a flat tire or split the bill for an oil change.
Everything, yeah.
who pays the,
Where does it get stored, you know?
yeah.
Say, maybe they'd say, we have a building, we want it down here.
And you're still gonna run into the situation where even if you have quote priority, okay, one day they get the thing down there to their place to use it, we have a priority while they're halfway through a project, they're not gonna let us have it back till theirs is done.
And there is no priority if you said you want a partner and they say,
If
yeah,
you're
we'll go
partnering,
50.
there's no
We'll go
priority.
50-50.
You're gonna have to define that, yeah.
I think where I would see the biggest issue with that would be, I mean, let's just say winter paid the majority of the truck, but we had another community went in and gave us like 20%. And that community is like, well, we're gonna get our 20% worth out of that truck. So they want that truck down there twice a year to jet rot out every one of their sewers, and we spend hours and hours over there doing that. And, I guess we'd kind of be obligated to it because they would have 20% of ownership of the truck. And, the other thing I would see would be the perfect storm, I guess you want to, so to speak, would be if we had a backed up sewer and then another community had a backed up sewer, say we have a heavy rain or something, and we both have the same situation. Well, the trucks here, we're gonna obviously go to our situation. Now, they have residents that have sewage backed up in their basements, and they're gonna say, well, we had 20%, we had partial ownership of that truck. Who's gonna pay for all the cleaning of all these basements in our town because we had sewage back up in their basement? So, yeah, there'd be a lot of issues with that. I can see something like that being beneficial, maybe for a fire truck,
You're gonna run into the same thing.
because you're gonna run the same areas anyways, but when it came to a specialized piece of equipment like this, I don't know if it would work as well.
You're gonna have the same problem though with insurance and everything else, sharing equipment,
Fuel and,
fuel, I mean, even a fire truck, who insures it?
Repairs, it's gonna come down
Repairs.
to who was using it last.
Yeah, it's,
Well, then if we send Mark and his guys, do we bill them out for their hours?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's just better off just to toss them in and we bill them out for.
And we keep it out of the private ranches in Hamilton.
we're about half, I would say we're half done with our sewers in the city of Winter. We didn't appropriate any money for any relinings next year. And the thought process was there, if you remember or not, we weren't getting anybody to bid on our projects, so we were having to go out and solicit the people to do it. And we weren't having a whole lot of success at that either. Last year, we got HydroClean, and we didn't get all the sewers that we wanted to get done because they only gave us a limited amount of time. So they were here for about a week, and that was it. So next year, we don't have anything budgeted, but the following year, we're hoping to throw a bigger price tag at it so we can get somebody here. And I don't think the price is gonna go up any higher than it is now. I mean, people are saying, for this kind of deal here, I mean, if you could afford it, this would
This would be the way to go.
this is a good product, no doubt. But what we're doing in the other sewers is very, very good process that we're doing. But we'll probably be about, I would say after a 2025 reline project, we're gonna be about 3/4 of the way done with getting all the sewers in town done.
Nice.
And so then, you know, you're looking at a lot less maintenance.
Actually, more maintenance, probably, right?
No,
Once we get them done, don't we want to stay on top of them and
I think,
maintenance?
no, I think, you know, that that's one stipulation I would say, if you're gonna put out the money for a new truck, is I would like to see some kind of a maintenance program out of the water,
Right.
out of the sewer department. And, you know, you're hitting the next, you know, you're gonna go hit so many of these sewers every summer, no matter what.
Right.
So that process of elimination, and we don't have backups. We have the camera, we'd have a brand-new jetter truck. Really no reason we should have issues with our sewers. But this might be, this truck, the last truck lasted 20 years. This truck might last a while longer than that, because once you get all those sewers relined, you really should. The relining of the sewer is a great program, but it's not like putting a new pipe in the ground with connecting new services to it. Because when you put a new pipe in the ground, we're getting a new sewer pipe, but the services that are connected to it, even when they go through and they cut those holes out, you don't have a perfect fit right on your sewer pipe. So you still have a situation where roots could get in. So you still are going to have, you know, some maintenance when you have relines. And like back in the old, you know, back in the old days, when they just punched a hole in the pipe and they, you know, stuck a piece of PVC through there, they poured some concrete around it. You know, that sealed them up pretty good. But since we've started relining, we keep on hand a special sewer tap now that it's a PVC sewer tap that bands on. It actually has a rubber gasket that fits down into the hole, and then their PVC pipe glues into that, or Fernco's onto that, so it eliminates that possibility of roots getting in there. So whenever somebody redoes a sewer, it's always a plus, because we're putting better product out there on our sewer line.
Are we inspecting everybody when they take out a permit? That's something that's,
Anytime they're doing anything with our main, we inspect.
that's awesome. I think
We
for a while.
wrote the ordinance that way.
Right.
To require that, yeah.
We actually require them now, if it's a relined sewer, we require them to use the taps that he keeps on stock, because we don't, we actually, if it's a relined sewer, we actually require that we're there now when they cut it, because you can't just take a hammer and chip it out. You have to use because it's this kind of a product, you have to use a hole saw. You have to actually drill it out, otherwise it'll shatter the liner if you start beating on it with a hammer. So if it's a relined sewer now, we require that we're there when they cut it, so that we're making sure that they cut it properly, and then we give them we charge them back for it, but we give them the sewer tap to put on there, so that you don't have anything protruding through, you just have a rubber gasket, and then it bands onto the pipe and it seals up. That helps so we can't get any I&I or tree roots or anything that come in on those new taps. And on the water side, if they're putting a new service into our main, we actually tap the main. We don't let any contractors tap.
If it's a new service, they'll dig all the way out to the main, uncover the main. We'll go in and we'll tap it. They'll put their saddle on, we'll tap it.
The Wild West is over.
Yeah.
It's your drinking water.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more.
I talked about it yesterday. Council, any questions? Okay.
I'm done.
Mark, anything else?